Well, hello, everyone. Right now, my name is Elizabeth Long. I'm an immigration lawyer here at Long Mango G, and I'm broadcasting to you straight from my office here. With me as well, I have Zia. I'm going to put her on right now. Let's see here. Hi, Zia.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Liz.
So Zia is going to be helping out today. Zia is another lawyer at our firm, and she's going to be answering the Q&A, the questions and answers. If you have any questions, you can post them on the bottom there at the Q&A at your screen. And Zia will be trying to answer some of your questions. We may not get to everything, and especially with personal answers, we don't normally answer them here. But if you have general questions and answers, we'll try to answer them. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say bye to Zia. Thank you very much, and she'll talk with you guys on Q&A. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sharing my screen with you guys. Okay. So today, this webinar is about the new OINP program that just opened for graduate students and Express Entry applicants. And I just wanted to first of all, go here. Here is, for example, a sample screen that you guys might see. And I just wanted to point out that you can go to the Q&A here to ask questions, and Zia will be answering them for you there. Okay? Now, let's talk about what is the new OINP. What is an OINP? That's the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, and it's the provincial nominee program for Ontario. So what a provincial nominee program is that, well, let's put it this way. Immigration is supposed to be a federal government's jurisdiction. The federal government is responsible for immigration. But the federal government has made agreements with each province. And those are called provincial nominee programs, where they allow each province to select people that they want to get permanent residence. And so Ontario has created their own provincial nominee program called the OINP. Okay, now we call it a program, but there are many, many different streams within it. Today, we're going to be talking about the master's graduate program. Now, I've highlighted the programs in green that are currently open because some programs are not yet open yet, okay? But the master's graduate program was just opened on Tuesday afternoon. The PhD graduate programs also just opened on Tuesday. And the Express Entry programs are also open now. The Human Capital Priorities has been open since Tuesday. The French-speaking skilled worker program has never been closed. It's still open as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. I'm going to go into specifics later to talk about what these programs are. I just wanted to quickly run over an outline about the different programs for OINP. So sometimes people get confused. They think, oh, well, the OINP, I qualify for the master's, therefore that's the OINP. The master's graduate program is just one program for the OINP. There's all of these other programs. There's also an employer-driven stream for skilled workers, and there's one for international students with a job offer. But I've put these in red because they are currently not open. The minister has said that she anticipates this program to be open this year. Right now, however, it's not opened, okay? There's also a corporate or entrepreneur stream. I'm not really going to go into that today. If you have further questions about that, feel free to contact us. All right, so let me go into a little bit of an overview about what the new process is for 2017. Because although the programs have more or less stayed the same in terms of their eligibility, there are some changes, and I'll go through that. The process is very different. This year, there are 6,000 spots for 2017. What does that mean? Well, each year, the federal government gives each province a certain quota of people that they can nominate. And when that quota is filled up, the province has to stop its program. Okay? And so this year, 2,500 will be for express entry nominations. And we'll talk about that, but that's only for the express entry categories. And then there's 3,500 for all of the other categories. And that will include the masters, the new PhD, employer-driven streams, entrepreneur and corporate streams, as well as there are still applications that are waiting to be processed from last year, and those will also go into those numbers. So the numbers are there, but they are quite tight for this year. And not everybody who qualifies and wants to apply will be able to do so. This year, the government has now gone completely away from the paper system. All new applications, other than applications that had qualified from before, all new applications is going to go through the online system. And all of the documents are going to be submitted online. Okay? So what happens is to go on the online system, you have to register your profile. And when you register your profile, you're going to select the category that you want to apply for. If your category has a color in it, it's not gray, then you're actually in there. You have registered your profile. After you register your profile, you have 7 days to submit the documents for your application. Okay? Now, some of you perhaps have already tried to go online, and perhaps you, along with us, have had a lot of trouble going into the system. That's because the system has been extremely glutted because of the number of people who have all been bottlenecking the system. We expect the government is working on it. I've been in contact with the office, and they are working on it to resolve the problem. But we'll see how early it is that it will be fixed. But hopefully in the next few days, it will be fixed and we can register. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that this online system does not check to see whether you qualify or not. The express entry system, once you answer the question, they'll let you know whether or not you qualify. The online system for the OINP does not tell you whether or not you qualify. If you were lucky enough to be able to register and submit your application, you can still be rejected if they find that you don't qualify. Another new thing this year is that the government will be pausing certain programs that have really high traffic. So, for example, the master's program is one of the highest number of applications, and they may want to save some room for other programs like the employer-driven, which has not even started yet. So perhaps after they receive a certain number, they will be pausing the program. So if you register after they've paused the program, you won't be able to register because that symbol for the master's program, it will be gray. Okay? They will be pausing and perhaps reopening if they process the applications and a lot of people don't qualify, then they might open up the program again this year. But that is, that's a new aspect of the new process. It will be a first come, first serve. It's not like Express Entry where you get a number and there's a drop. There's nothing like that. It's just first come, first serve. and it's very program dependent. So just because your friend applied through the master's and wanted to apply through the master's couldn't get in doesn't mean if you're a PhD or you're employer driven that you can't apply. Okay, so let's talk about the new master's stream. The master's stream is very, very similar to the previous master's stream. You have to graduate from a master's program in Ontario with at least 1 year of study in Ontario. You have to apply within 2 years of your graduation. So for those of you who weren't able to get in last year, this might be your last chance to get in this year, okay? This is now different. Before, they required you to reside in Ontario when you're applying. They are now anticipating that some people may not have their work permits valid and they can't be in Ontario. So they are allowing you to apply from outside of Canada. Now, keep in mind that's outside of Canada, not just outside of Ontario. So if you've moved to BC, you are not going to be able to apply for this stream. And that is really important because they want to know that you have an intent to reside in Ontario, okay? And so if you're residing elsewhere, even if you apply through a PhD program, that may be problematic, but certainly for the master's stream, you have to either reside in Ontario or you have to reside outside of Canada. You do have to pass your English exam, and now they are allowing CELPIP exams as well, CELPIP exam results as well. So for the IELTS, they're looking at least 6 for every category. And for CELPIP, they're looking for at least 7 in every category. I don't care about the overall score. I need 6 for reading, 6 for writing, 6 for listening, 6 for speaking for IELTS, and the same in 7s for CELPIP. You have to have resided in Ontario for at least 1 year in the last 2 years. You have to have settlement funds. And right now, this year, it's the same as for the federal guidelines. It's around 13,000 for one person. For 2 people, it's around 15,000 or so. And as you add more people, that amount goes up. There is also an intention to reside and work that we had spoken about, but it does not require you to have a job offer in Ontario. And finally, those students who have the obligations from your country, if your country has sponsored you to return home, you would not qualify for this program. Let's talk about the PhD graduate stream. PhD graduates are slightly easier than masters. You do have to graduate from a PhD program in Ontario, at least 2 years of study in Ontario. You have to apply within 2 years of graduation, so same timeline. If you did not qualify last year, you do have to, this might be your last year to apply under this program. There is also an intention to reside and work. So, if you move to BC, even though technically you are able to apply, when an officer looks at your intention to reside and work in Ontario, that may be an issue there. Again, students who have the return obligations to return back to their home country after their studies, you wouldn't be able to apply for this. Now, for Express Entry stream, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about these streams, but in general, you have to already be in the Express Entry pool with the federal government first. And then, if you're already there, you may receive a letter of interest from the OINP if you meet the criteria. Now, Last year, a lot of people did not get invited, even though they met the criteria of having over 400 points, for example, under the human capital interest. This year, the government has told us, I was just at a technical briefing on Tuesday morning with the minister and the people in charge of this program. They have told us that they intend to invite everyone over 400 points, okay? But not everyone will be able to apply. Remember, they may be, after you get that letter of interest, you no longer have to apply within 45 days. You can, there's no limit on when you can apply after you receive that letter of interest from the OINP. However, you actually have to be able to register on the online system in order to apply. So you have to, there's a first come, first serve, okay? So that is something, you know, that, I mean, the points for express entry are lower and lower, and you may or may not need to apply for this. But let me explain a little bit more. For some of you who may not really understand what this program is, let me explain a little bit more about the express entry system. So in a nutshell, the express entry system, you have to first qualify for permanent residence under certain programs. Federal Skilled Worker Program, Canadian Experience Class. Federal Skilled Trades will not really work for the provincial nominee. We're really looking at the FSW, Federal Skilled Worker Class, and the Canadian Experience Class. Once you qualify, you can enter yourself into the express entry pool. And when you are in the pool, you will get a certain number of points based on your background. Now, the trick, however, is not to stay in the pool, because just because you get into the pool does not mean that you can actually apply. The trick is to get out of the pool and receive an ITA. So every 2 weeks or so, the government issues a draw. And during that draw, they will announce a number. If your number is above the number that the government has announced, then you can actually apply. If your number is not above that number, then you stay in the pool. Now, recently, the numbers have been getting lower and lower. The last draw was yesterday, and the points was 441. That's the lowest it's ever been in the past 2 years since the program opened. So if your number was 441, or above, you would have received an invitation to apply. So this is the federal system, okay? What the provincial system does is they say, well, if you're between 400 and above, and you haven't received an invitation to apply. For example, if my points was 401, okay? It's below the draw number, 441. I don't know if they're ever going to get that low, but I want to get out of the pool and be able to apply. Well, OINP, if I say I want to live in Ontario, OINP is going to send me an invitation to apply. And, sorry, not an invitation. OINP is going to send me a letter of interest to say, hey, you can apply with us for 600 more points, okay? So you get some points for your human capital score. You have points based on your background, your education, your age, your work experience, etc., your language score. But that might not be enough to get drawn all on its own. If you have provincial nomination with the Ontario government, you'll get 600 points. With that, you will for sure get an invitation to apply. So it's all about getting that invitation to apply. So what does it mean? So people who have over 400 points may be invited to apply. I say may because we have been told that the system, there are some glitches in the system, And some people may, and some people, because of the glitches, may not get invited, but people should be getting invited. If you have over 400 points, you qualify for the programs, and you can show that you want to reside in Ontario. You indicate on your profile that you want to reside in Ontario. Now, people who have high French and English scores may also be invited to apply. So even if my score was below 400 points, but I understand and speak French fluently, and my English is also very good, I might also be able to apply. There's two categories for this. Okay. Now you have to have enough funds. You have to meet LICO, or if you're employed in Ontario, you have a permanent job offer, that's all right as well. And you have to have a bachelor's, master's, or PhD degree. So college degrees, if that's your only degree, it won't work. Okay. And if you're approved, then you get 600 additional points. All right. So that, in a nutshell, is the new program. It's a lot of information. What should you do? The first thing you have to see is this program the right choice? Okay. Do you actually qualify for this program? There's no point spending all this time trying to get online and trying to register a profile if you don't actually qualify, right? There are other options that might be easier and faster. Some of you may not need to apply for the master's program if you can get selected through the Express Entry. Express Entry, if you can get out of the pool, would be much faster than the master's program, because the master's program, they have not set a processing time yet for how long the master's or the PhD program or any of the programs are going to take to process. Before, when they didn't have a lot of people to apply, the processing time was really fast. It was 3 months or less. Last year, however, the processing time stretched to way around a year or so. This year, with the online system, they're trying to see if they can get it shortened, but they've made no promises because they themselves don't really know. So once you get through the first stage, let's just say the first stage takes 6 months. That's not the end of it. You have to apply to the federal government after you get your provincial nomination. And if it's a master's or PhD program, then there's another 1 year of wait with the federal government, okay? So those are some of the things to weigh. If you have just graduated and you're thinking of moving to another province, then the OINP may not be the right one for you, because if they find that you've moved to another province, first of all, for masters, you won't even qualify, but even for other programs, there's a serious question of whether or not you intend to reside in Ontario. And so what you need to know is if you move somewhere else before you get permanent residence, then your entire application, even if you pass your Ontario and you get your nomination and you haven't passed through the federal stage yet, then your entire application could be refused and you'd have to start from scratch. Okay. The second thing is, if you decide OINP is the right choice, you have to try to submit your profile and application as soon as possible, because these things will go fast. And you have to submit a perfect application, because you're not going to get a second chance. You know, if you miss anything on your application, the officers right now are moving to just rejecting it without giving you a second chance most of the time. So you don't want to miss your opportunity and submit something and miss something there, because then you'll have to go back to square one. So we are available as well for personal consultations. I'm going to, right now, I'm going to let you know that the personal consultations will be, if you tell us you've watched the seminar, then we'll give you an incentive to have a consultation for $100 to have a consultation with us. Okay. Now, Zia is going to. I'm going to see here. Let me see if Zia is available, and she's going to ask us. We're going to go through some question and answers, and she's going to see. Hi, Zia.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. So you have some questions. I see that there's been a few questions down there.
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of great questions. A couple of them we've gotten a couple of times, so I'm going to pose them to you.
Yeah.
The first question is, can we update documents once the application has been submitted?
Yes, you can. And now they're working on a system where you might be able to update your documents on the system. Right now, that's not, and we're going to have to communicate with the officers to update the application. There's a difference between updating your application and submitting an application that is incomplete. Once the officer gets to your application, those are the documents that they're looking at. So if you submit something and it's inadequate, they will just reject it. If you submit something and your situation changed, then certainly you should send them further documentation about that.
Wonderful, perfect. Thanks, Elizabeth. Now, the second question that I have for you is, can we apply for more than one OINP program at the same time?
Yes, in the past we have been able to do so. They will usually only issue one certificate because those certificates are very precious. I would caution against applying for everything. I know, oftentimes that might seem to be the most, safest thing to do, but sometimes you don't necessarily need to apply for everything. We usually have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, but if your plan A is strong enough, that might be enough to apply. You can save yourself some money and hassle by doing that.
Great. The next question that I have for you is if you can talk a little bit about demonstrating your intent to reside in Ontario.
So if you are in Ontario, then perfect. That is an intent, and you're residing and you're working in Ontario, there's that intent. If you are outside of Canada, then it could get a little bit tricky. For Express Entry, it might just be that you declare that intent to reside. If you're outside the country and you've lived all the time that you were in Canada, you were in Ontario or you studied in Ontario, and you just, the reason why you couldn't be in Ontario is because of your work permit. If you're outside of Ontario, but you have a work permit, but you just have a job out there, then that might gets to be a little tricky. So each situation can differ. But I would say, because provinces tend to be very jealous of other provinces, if you want to apply under the OINP, I would strongly advise against residing in another province in Canada until you get your permanent residence.
Great. The next question deals with what status you need to have while you're in Canada when you're applying for your master's or your PhD.
If you are in Canada, you must have legal status. Because the provinces have to make sure that people who apply with them can get permanent residence later on and pass through an admissibility with the federal government, they need to make sure that you have status. Even if you're in restoration period, they don't accept that as being in status. So it's okay if you have visitor status, that's being in status. You have a work permit or study permit, that's fine as well.
Okay, wonderful. There have been a couple questions. If you can just go over the requirements for the master's stream and how someone can qualify for it.
So I went through that in my slide, and the master's, you can, we will have recorded this, and it will be on our website, www.lmlawgroup.com, and you can, I think some of you may have been late to the seminar, but it was in my previous presentation. So, go on there and check that out. The program has changed slightly for the better, but for the most part, it's very similar to the previous program. Okay.
We're also getting questions about whether you need to have a job offer to apply.
Depends on what it is. If you are applying under the master's program or PhD program, there is no job offer required. That's the beauty of those programs. If you are applying under Express Entry program and you have your funds available, you have enough funds in your bank account available, you don't need a job offer. But if you don't have your funds available, you're applying through the Express Entry, then yes, through the Human Capital Priority stream, then yes, you do need to have a job offer and to be working there.
Okay, the next question deals with that actual funds requirement. How long does an individual need to have that funds in their account, both before the application, before they've applied and after they've applied and the application's in processing?
So they do look at 6 months of bank statements. So if your money is in there for 6 months, that might be enough. Every case is different. But if your money, you don't have that much money right now, and your parents are going to give you money, for example, we have to indicate that they are giving you that money as a gift, not a loan, but that it could be enough to satisfy the income requirement.
Great. And the last question, Elizabeth, deals with timelines. Can you talk a little bit, I know you touched on this before, but can you talk a little bit about the timelines that we can expect to see for the different streams?
Like I said before, for the OINP, so there's 2 stages. You have to apply through the Ontario OINP program, and then once you are approved under that program, and you get a nomination certificate, then you can apply to the federal program, to the federal government, and they will look at inadmissibility, your medicals, your police certificates, whether or not you have status in Canada, and if you pass that, then you get permanent residence. The first stage, we're not exactly sure. The government is not exactly sure how long it's going to be. Hopefully it'll be a little bit faster than last year, which was taking around a year or so, or even more for some people. But the second program, where once you get your certificate, and then you apply to the federal program, we're looking at around a year or so for that second program as well. So overall, I would generalize to say 1.5 years to 2 years for the entire thing, but that is just pure speculation on my part, especially with regard to the first part.
Perfect, thanks. There are still a number of questions. I am answering them privately, but those are the ones that we've received multiple times.
Yes, and I see that our question and answer is kind of exploding. We have
a little bit.
And I know that you have to be on a plane in like 20 minutes. We're not going to be able to answer everybody's questions today. But what I would do is I would certainly encourage you guys to contact us and have a personal consultation, because everybody's situation is different. And with our consultations, we will be able to formulate a good plan for you guys for your personal life. Okay? Thank you so much, Zia. And we'll see you guys next time.